Hi everyone, welcome back. It's been a couple of weeks since, I think a couple of weeks since my last video. Usually I space them out a bit more than this, but I have some finished objects that I want to show you. So I thought, why not just do a video and let you see what I've been getting up to over the last week or so. So yeah, let's just crack on. So hopefully the lighting won't be too bad today. The weather forecast is raining and blustery winds, so it may get darker throughout the video, hopefully not, but I'll just have to work with what I've got. So today I just have knitting that I'm going to show you and cross stitching. So if you're interested in those crafts, then do stay tuned and let's move into finished objects. So I have been doing a little bit of sock knitting. So as I mentioned in my last video, Ali from Little Drops of Wonderful, she hosts the Strictly Sock Along, and because Strictly Come Dancing is back on TV now, it's kind of booted me up the butt to get some knitting done and use up some of my sock yarn stash. So I pulled out some knitting. I think I showed you in my last video that I'd started a pair of socks, and the yarn that I have used is called All Stars yarn. It's a Stylecraft sock yarn, which is 75% superwash wool and 25% nylon. It's head over heels All Stars yarn by Stylecraft. That's what it looks like. Now if you can see, the ball band is a little bit chewed up and mangled. That's because we have a budgie, and our budgie likes to grab hold of anything papery and just rip it to shreds, and that is the result. It creates these pretty little patterns on the ball band. So anytime I'm doing some knitting around him and I drop a ball band or even just a pattern, printed pattern, he will just come along and start biting chunks out of it. So if you see little like bits like that, if the paper that I show you looks a bit mangled, it's probably because the budgie has been at it, so apologies for that, but that's what it is. So that's the ball band. It's a Stylecraft yarn. That's what it's meant to, that's what they showed the example of what it knits up like. So as you probably know, if you followed me for a while, you will know that I knit my socks on 9-inch circular needles. I'm sorry, I've got an itchy nose this morning. I knit my socks on 9-inch circular needles, which are Chalgu needles, and I knit 2 at a time. So I knit them in tandem so that I can get them to be pretty similar. And I knit on 2.25mm needles, which I think is a US size 1. Let me just check. Yes, a US size 1. So that's the, can you see that? Oh, there we go. Those are the needles that I use to knit my socks on. Chalgu knit red needles. And so yeah, so I'm trying to use this yarn up. This was a 100-gram ball of yarn, so I made these 2 socks. So these are just vanilla socks. It's just a 2x2 rib cuff up here, and then plain for the length that I felt like. I don't like my socks to be too long these days, and I wasn't sure with this how many pairs of socks I was going to get out of the one ball of yarn, so I decided to just make the leg a bit shorter on these socks so that I'd have enough to make a second pair of socks. So anyway, so I've done 2x2 rib here for the cuff, which is about 2 inches. Then I've worked a heel flap and gusset heel, and I've knit down to the sock, and I've done a shaped toe. I'm not sure, I can't remember if it's called a wedge toe or it's not quite, it's a rounded toe. So I'll take it off the sock blocker and you can see what it looks like when it's knit. So it looks like that. So for the toe, I generally do, for my decreases, I will knit one round with a decrease, and then I will knit a plain round, then I'll knit around with decreases, then a plain round, until I get to 20 stitches on each side, top and bottom. And then once I've got to 20 stitches top and bottom, then I do the decreases every round until I get down to 10 stitches top and bottom, and then I do the Kitchener stitch to bind it off at the front, so it has that kind of lovely seamless kind of look to it. So that's how I do my socks. So these are UK size 7. I think what did I do differently than these? I did a old Norwegian cast on, otherwise known as a German twisted cast on, and what I've started to do at the top of the cuff, when I've cast on, instead of just going straight into my 2x2 rib, which is what I usually do, I did a knit round. So I do the cast on, then I do a round of knit, and then I do my 2x2 rib, and it creates a slightly different look at the top of the sock. I'm not sure if you can see. It's got a slightly different look at the top. Maybe it shows up better on this one. It's got a slightly different look to the pattern. So you can see that there. So you can see like little pearl bumps along the top here. So yeah, so that's how I've done these. I'm quite pleased with how they've turned out. It feels like quite a durable yarn. The texture feels very much like what's that yarn that I've used before? I think it's opal yarn. It's got kind of a bit of a rough texture to it, and West Yorkshire Spinners, that's the one. Feels a bit like West Yorkshire Spinners yarn, but I think West Yorkshire, I can't say it, it's a bit of a mouthful. I think the West Yorkshire Spinners one, I think they use Blueface Leicester for that one. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's a different type of yarn, but this has the same kind of feel to it. A little bit kind of scratchy feel, but not too scratchy that it would be uncomfortable. When they're on my feet, they feel fine. They feel perfectly lovely and soft. So it's just to the touch of my hand, it's got a slightly more rough texture to it. It's not like baby soft, but I'm pleased with them, and that's the first sock that I have managed to get finished. Excuse me. It's the first sock I've managed to get finished for the Strictly Sock Along. So the second pair of socks that I've knit with that same yarn and another yarn for the heel and toes is this pair. So, I mean, they don't fit my sock blocker because my sock blockers are a size 7. So these are around about a size 3. And these were done as afterthought heels. So again, I've knit 2 of these in tandem. So I split the yarn, whatever was left from these, I think I split the yarn into 2 balls. And I just knit these 2 socks at the same time. So I knit the cuff, which is a 2x2 rib again. I've only done that for about 1 inch because I didn't want to run out of yarn before getting to the foot. So I just did a smaller amount of rib here. I've knit the leg for, well, not the leg, I knit the rest of the sock. I knit all the way down to here. And then when I ran out of yarn, then I inserted the toe. And then after finishing the toe, then I cut the pattern, cut the tube, and inserted the heel here. So that's what that looks like. So it's just an ordinary, the same kind of toe that I've done on the previous sock in terms of decreases, and again for the heel. But what I've done for the heel, before I actually insert the heel, I do 5 rounds of plain knit, and then I start the decreases. So I've got a little bit more depth to the heel, so it looks a bit odd there. This is better. So that's what it looks like. And the yarn that I've used for the heel is from, let me find the label. It's from, it's by Pixie Yarns, and it's called Dances with Rainbows. It's a 75% merino, 25% nylon base yarn, and I bought that from Pixie Yarns. And yeah, I've had that in my stash for a while, and so because I didn't have enough of this main yarn to do the heels and toes, so I just thought I would just knit the complete, whatever I had, just knit it all the way down till I finished, and then just insert toes and heels. And that's what I've done. And of course there are 2 of these, so these work out to be around about a size 3. I have a sock ruler that I use, that I got on Etsy, which looks like this, and I use that to gauge the size of the socks. It's got a nice little measurement on the side here that I use to determine what size my sock is going to be. So that's how I'm able to decipher what size my sock is going to be. So these are around about size 3. So they will be gifted because there's no way they're going to fit my size 7 feet. So yeah, so that's that. So I finished up all of this yarn, and then I decided to start off on this yarn because I haven't actually used this yarn yet, and so I felt like I just wanted to use a tiny bit to finish these off, and then make a complete pair of socks with the yarn as I had intended, which was the original intention when I bought that yarn. And so I can get these on the sock blocker. I can show you what these ones look like. So these ones, I followed a slightly different formula for these socks. So they are vanilla socks, but the cuff is different on these. So I've done a 2x2 twisted rib for these. Hopefully you can see that there. So I've done knit into the back of 2 stitches and then purl as usual, knit into the back of 2, then purl as usual, and that's my 2x2 twisted rib. Again, I did the old Norwegian cast on, or otherwise known as German twisted cast on, for the top, and then I did one round of knit before I went into the twisted rib pattern. Then I've just done my usual vanilla socks as per the first pair that I showed you. What I noticed about these, I'm not sure if you can see, I actually divided the ball of yarn. Well, it was a hank of yarn. It came as a hank because it's a hand dyed yarn. So it came as a hank of yarn. I wound it up on my ball winder into 1 ball, and then I divided it into 2 balls. So I work from 2 separate balls of the yarn, and I knit the 2 pairs of each sock concurrently. So that's what I've done with these, but I don't know if you can see, there is quite a difference between this sock and this sock in terms of the colours. The colours on this sock seem to be much more vibrant than on this sock, even though they are from the same hank of yarn. I'm not sure what I could have done in terms of making them look a little bit more even, but yeah, that's the way they turned out. I mean, because they're for me, it doesn't really bother me so much, and I'm wondering if it's going to possibly, if the colour on this one will fade slightly and kind of blend in, match a bit more with this one, but it seems to be, it's quite noticeable that one is more vibrant than the other when you look at them. So I'm not quite sure how I would have got around that, or what's caused that. If you've got any ideas, let me know. I mean, it doesn't really bother me because I will still wear the socks, but I just thought it was interesting the way that the colours, they just seem to be slightly different. One's more vibrant than the other. I just thought that was quite interesting the way that's turned out from the yarn. But yeah, so that is it. So those are my 3 socks. I've yet to put this in this pair in the Strictly sock along thread on Ravelry, purely because I've only just managed to take a photo of it, because I just finished them. I finished them last night, I think it was. So yeah, I do have some yarn left over still. So I still have 2 small balls of yarn from that, which amount to about 33 grams. So that's them. I have some scrappy socks that I'm working on, so I'm trying to figure out if I just kind of put them into that, or if I start another scrappy pair of socks and see what happens with that. I think I might just insert these into the scrappy ones that I've got, but watch this space. But that's what the yarn actually looks like. It's a speckled yarn with lots of different colours in it. If I can, I will try and insert a picture of what the yarn looks like in the actual hank, because then you'll see yeah, I was really attracted to this yarn when it came up on Pixie Yarn's Instagram page. I looked at the yarn and I was immediately attracted to it. I immediately wanted to buy it, and yeah, so I did. But then when you buy a hank of yarn, a hand-dyed yarn, and then you start to knit it, it's not going to look as it does in the hank unless it's maybe a solid colour or slightly, I don't know, solid with speckles or something. So I was surprised at how this actually knits up. Not disappointed, but just surprised. I do like it, but it's not the kind of yarn that I would use to do pattern socks. It's great for vanilla socks, which is what I tend to gravitate towards anyway, just for ease, because I like to do vanilla socks for TV watching. And just when I need some downtime and I don't want to have to think too hard, and I generally will pick up a pair of socks and just knit vanilla socks and I'm good. But if I wanted to do a patterned sock and focus on a nice pretty little pattern, then I wouldn't choose something as not colourful, as speckled, because it's very, very speckled, and I think it would kind of take the speckling on this would take the focus away from the pattern if I tried to do these in a pattern sock. So yeah, but that's what I've got left, and I'll be trying to use these up in the coming days or week. So that is it. So, oh, actually, I have one more finished object, and it's a cross stitch project. So it's a finished object, or finally finished object, FFO, and that is, where's the packet? The Bebunni cross stitch. So I started this when I did my last video. I showed you where I was with this. I think I just started the D on this. I'd done that bit, the bunny's head and the ears, and I was just starting on the D. And I figured, like, while I was stitching on this, I was really quite happy to plod along with this. And I think the fact that it's such a small stitch, I think it's 16 by, what is it, 16 by 18 centimetres, because it's such a small design, I felt like, you know what, I could just get this finished and then just move on to one of my other cross stitch projects, and that'll be one of the things out of my little stash of cross stitch kits to do. So I thought, let me just keep working on this and just see if I can finish it up, and that's what I've done. So here is where we are. I've managed to get a frame for it, which is like the ones that I have up here, same frame, and this is what it looks like. I'm sorry for the glare from the window there, but that's what it looks like, and I am really happy with how it turned out. That's better, there we go, that's better. Having to kind of angle the frame a bit so you can see it without the glare of the window. So yeah, this wasn't a difficult stitch at all. I think it's a great beginner stitch. It's one of the projects that I started as a beginner. The one that I showed earlier is up on the wall there. The first one that I did of this was done when I was very much a beginner, and so I do think it's very beginner friendly. Yeah, so there was two fractional stitches used for the nose, which you could just avoid that altogether and just do one little blob of stitching there, but that was it. There wasn't anything. Oh, the other thing, yeah, there were lazy daisies. These flowers are called lazy daisies there and up there, and I found them pretty tricky for my first ever attempt at lazy daisies. I think that was another reason that I got excited about this piece, because I've never done lazy daisies before, and it was a chance to try something different, see how I got on with them. I had to do them a couple of times before I kind of got into any kind of real swing with it. It was a little bit tricky, I felt, to start with, because as I was doing the loop and trying to put the needle back in the hole that it says because the pattern gives you the information. So the pattern gives you information as to how to do fractional stitches and how to do the lazy daisies. So it's not difficult to follow the instructions and have a go at these things. But I did find it tricky in practice with the lazy daisies, because what happened every time I pulled the needle through, the top bit of the stitch where it's meant to stay on the surface of the fabric kept pulling through the fabric, and so I had to do it a number of times before I actually got it to sit on the fabric, and get into like a little kind of rhythm as to how to ensure that the stitch just didn't pull through and not sit on the top. So I managed to do that. I'm pleased with how it turned out. I don't think it's my favourite stitch. I think I could do with a little bit more practice on it anyway. But I did enjoy this, and there's not a whole heap of back stitching either, which is great. There's some for the you've got back stitching around the ears, little tiny bit of like fluffiness around here, and then on the lettering. And I felt like when it comes to the back stitching, I tend to try and follow the chart, but sometimes where I get a bit mixed up with the chart, I just do my own thing and just make it look as close to the chart as I can possibly get it, so long as it's not so different that it's going to make the end piece look strange. I don't feel that it really matters if I do, maybe instead of doing one stitch in back stitch, I just maybe jump 2 or 3 stitches. So I do kind of just do my own, follow my own, what's the word? I do my own thing when it comes to the back stitching if I feel that something's not quite working or not quite looking right on the back stitching, and it tends to have worked out okay, so I'm quite pleased with how it's turned out. And this will eventually go on the wall behind me. I think now actually going to find a 4th piece so that I have all 4, because I've got 1, 2, and then this one makes 3 here, and then I will have another one on this side just to kind of balance it out. So that is the plan. So this one will probably go here, but I'm going to wait until I get the other one before I hang it up on the wall, because it's going to look a bit odd. This one did get a little bit grubby, and I didn't want to go to the trouble of trying to wash the fabric and then part of it looking a different colour, because I've tried that before and I actually messed it up on one of these pictures. So I just decided to leave it, and it looks okay in the frame, and it's only for me. I'm not really that fussed about it. I like the way it looks. It's not that obvious, so I'm really pleased with it. And the frame was from Amazon. So yeah, so that is my last finished object. So let's move on to works in progress. So this time round I have, over the last couple of weeks should I say, I have been concentrating, as you know, I spent quite a bit of time finishing up the Bebunni piece, so there's that. I've done quite a lot of work on this piece, which is the Bothy threads kit, and it's called London. This is a full coverage piece. It's worked on 16 count Ada, and it's done 2/2. The finished design is 36 centimeters by 38 centimeters. I am working in this section here, and I've worked downward and I'm going across this way. So last time you saw it, it looked like this. And now, sorry, itchy nose. Ugh. We take the frame off to show you what it actually looks like. Now we're working with this. So this is where we are now. I've finished the back of the bus, I've done the water, I think I'd done all that last time. From last time, you'll probably see I've done this bit here. I've filled in and started to work on the tube train here. Yeah, I started to do a little bit here. This is slightly filled in, and a couple of the people here, I filled that in. I filled, this bit is all filled in. I just need to stitch in the words way out up here. And yeah, the plan is to move along. So I've got 10, 20, about 28 stitches this way before the end of that particular page that I've photocopied, and then I can start going upwards or go that way, whichever I decide. But yeah, once I get going on this one, I do get a bit kind of wrapped up in it and just want to complete blocks of colour. For some reason this one makes me want to complete blocks of colour, so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to finish up the tube train though, and then once I've started, like, I quite like working on the red bits. I don't know why, I'm just drawn to working on the red bits. But yeah, that's where I am with that one. So hopefully it won't be long before I get to finish that part of that train, tube train. Then I have done some more on this Fruit of Plenty stitch along, which is by Modern Folk Embroidery. Let me just try and get this off. So I should have prepared myself, shouldn't I? So this one is done on 16 count Ada as well. This one is using two thread colours, a dark blue and a light blue, and it's part of a stitch along. They are currently, I think we've just got the October part come through, but I am still way behind. Because like I said, I only started mine last month, and so there's no way I'm going to catch up with everybody else because it's quite a long stitch. So this is what it looks like, the Fruit of Plenty, and it's by Modern Folk Embroidery. I have just completed this one and this one, so this is January and February, and I am now on March, and this is where I'm at. So I put this down to concentrate on the other cross-stitching projects that I had going on, because I didn't want this to monopolise my time, because I find it very easy to just pick this up, stitch a bit on this, put it down again. Anytime I have a spare moment, pick this up, do a motif, put it down again. And I could quite easily see my other pieces, my other projects suffering, because I am really enjoying working on this one. So I made a conscious decision last video to put this down for a little while and focus on some of the other projects. So only in the last couple of days, when I'd finished the Bebunni one and I'd done a bit on the London one, did I think, okay, now it's okay to go back and do a little bit more on this. So I then finished off this bit here, which is the end of the February section. I just finished this corner, and I've done now this bit. So this bit is March, so I've done a little bit of work on March, and yeah, so that's what it's looking like at the moment, and I can't wait to get going on the March section and to finish this top piece here. So watch this space for that. So yeah, I'm really pleased with how this is working. I find I don't know what to tell you about this. It's an enjoyable stitch. It's 16 count, it's oatmeal Ada, and I like it. I have to wear my reading glasses sometimes if the lighting is bad. Sometimes I'm good to just stitch with my normal glasses, and it's comfortable working on the 16 count doing that. So yeah, that's probably part of the reason why I'm enjoying this, because it's comfortable on my eyes, whereas anything really fine, like the next piece I'm going to show you, I can only do like short bursts of that before my eyes get tired. So yeah, and I'm using Q-snap frame for this one because I like the tautness of the frame. I have some R&R frames, but those ones, they're taut for a while, but I find that after using them for a while they tend to loosen up a bit, and the Q-snap ones, I think they hold their position quite well, so I'm enjoying using those ones. Right, so for the last piece I'm going to show you, and my last actual project, is the Story Keep, which is by Heaven and Earth Designs, and the designer is artwork is by Amy Stewart, and it's called Life is an Open Book London. So I showed this back in around May, so it's a long time ago. I put it down for quite a while because I was finding it very difficult, because I was doing it on chart by paper. I was working on by paper initially, and then I found that I could get Pattern Keeper on my son's Kindle, so I did a little bit on the Kindle, and then because I haven't had access to the Kindle, I put it down for a while, and then I decided, look, I need to pick it up and do a little bit more, so I'll just go back to using the paper. And then of course, because I'd gone back to paper, I had to figure out where I was as compared with what I ticked off on my paper pattern and what I ticked off on Pattern Keeper. So I had a bit of a job trying to figure out where I was on the paper, because I hadn't been marking that off. But I think now I'm I think I'm in a place where I can continue working on it from the paper chart now. So this is what the design is. Life is an Open Book London. That's what it looks like. I'm only on the top section here. If I can, I'll try and insert a picture of what it looked like the last time I showed it on my video. And now I think I'm going to have to flip you around and show you what it looks like in the frame. Actually, maybe I can lift it out. Let's see. So I've got it in this frame. Here we go. Let's do it this way. It's a little bit tricky, but let's give it a go. Here we go. So this is where I'm at with this piece now. So I filled in this bit here, I filled in that bit up here. I've tried to fill in all the gaps up here, which is what I was doing when I was on Pattern Keeper, and then I stopped using Pattern Keeper, so then there were loads of little gaps up here that I had to fill in. And I kind of changed the way that I was working on Pattern Keeper. I was doing things quite randomly on Pattern Keeper. So I'd pick up a colour, and then I would just stitch with that colour until the thread ran out, and then I would find another colour, stitch with that colour until the thread ran out. And inevitably, with this type of design, I would be over here at one point with that colour, then I'd move over here, then I'd be over there. So there were lots of little gaps where I hadn't worked on a particular colour. So trying to pick it up again and move on with this, just using the paper chart, I've had to just go back and fill in the little tiny gaps that I had. And you can see there's still some gaps up here that I haven't quite got around to yet, because I've been focusing on this section and trying to move across and fill in the top bits. So I'm trying to fill in this bit here. I need to do these little gaps, fill them in, and then start working downwards. I did at one point just pick up and do some stitches here, because I just got so frustrated with not knowing where I was on this bit of the chart. So I just thought, let me start afresh and do something down here. But that was a couple of months ago, and since then I've just been trying to figure out this section here. So just to recap, this is done on 25 count Lagana or Laguna? Lagana, I think it's called. 25 count Lagana, and it's an easy grid fabric, so it's all gridded out, and I'm stitching it 1/1, so it's very fine. You can see the detail on that. Yeah, I don't see this getting finished anytime soon, because it's taken me a while to do it. Although admittedly, picking it up this week, I did get a little bit into this. Once I realised that I filled in some of the gaps, it got a little bit more exciting knowing that I can move forward a bit. So I'm just trying to fill in the gaps and complete boxes, and then I can move on. But yeah, we'll see how I get on with this. I'm taking my time with this. But yeah, that is it. Life is an Open Book, London. And that is all of the things I've been working on. So let's move into, oops, it's got a bit blurry. It's time to move into incoming. So after much debating by myself, I finally caved in and got myself a Lowry stand. So I'll switch the camera around and show you what my one looks like. Okay, so this is the base of my stand. This is my tripod. This is the base of the stand. This is the pin that you pop into the holes along the pole here so that you can adjust the height of it. So if I bring it up here, you'll see this can be adjusted to the height you want, and you just pop the pin in at the level you want to secure it in at that height, and then you just tighten it up using this little hook thing at the back here. That tightens it into place. Then there's also this tightening bit here that allows you to, you can extend it out and just tighten that into place to come out as far as you need your piece to come, and that holds it in place and stops it from turning and stuff. If you tighten that up, if I bring it in a bit, I'm comfortable with this length, and I tighten this up, I can have it firmly at that angle when I'm working on it, and then I tighten it up to flip it over so I can see the back of my piece and secure my stitching in the back. So that's when I use that to flip it over. The clamp, oops, it's got a clamp on the back here, so over here this is the clamp, and that holds the frame in place. So as you can see, I'm using a Q-snap frame with this. It's not perfect, but it holds it firmly enough that I can work on it. And the clamp, the width of the clamp, you can see it's quite wide here, so I can just loosen it using this, take my piece out. If I've got a wider frame, I can just lower it down. Anyway, I guess you guys know what a Lowry stand looks like. Mine is kind of chrome plated, and I quite like the feel of it, and I've been using it for working on this. When I'm in my bed, I can just slide the base underneath my bed and pull it in close, and I can stitch with my nightlight comfortably on this piece. So I'm really pleased. So that's my Lowry stand. Hopefully I haven't bored you by showing you how it works if you already know, but you know, for those that don't know, then you know, hopefully that little snippet was helpful to you. But that is it. That is all of the incoming I have to share with you. That's everything I have to share with you today. Thank you so much for watching till the end. Hopefully you've found something of interest here. If you have any questions or you'd like to just leave a comment, please do that in the comment section below the video. You're more than welcome. And that is it for me. Hopefully I'll see you in another couple of weeks time. Until then, take care, and yeah, happy stitching. Bye.